joined us today. We are going to be showing you this incredible recipe for Belgian street waffles. Now, this particular recipe takes me back to many years ago when I was a college student, and 9 students at my university were selected to go abroad and work at the European Parliament and study at the University of Brussels. We were able to go abroad and work and study and also play, which was the best part for us. We traveled all across Europe and just made the best of memories. And funny enough, over Christmas this past year, my daughter had mentioned that she saw these amazing waffles on TikTok. And I was like, oh, what kind of waffles are those? And she's like, they're these Belgian waffles that are just supposed to be incredible. And I was like, oh my goodness, I know exactly what they're referring to, and let's go and try to find a recipe and see if we can make something that's authentic to this particular street waffle. And so we set out to do that, and we think we found just a great recipe. I don't think it's exactly like the waffle that you'll find in Belgium, but it's pretty darn close. And so it's just a fun thing to replicate, and I highly recommend that you try it. But what you can find, all across America, everyone has heard of a Belgian waffle. And when they think of a Belgian waffle, they think of this pretty thick, you need syrup on, and that is not the Belgian waffle that we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about this Liège style waffle. Liège is an eastern town in Belgium that this style of waffle was named after. And this is a caramelized, yummy sugar waffle that is just to die for good. Now, I want to backtrack just a minute. One of the most common questions that I get is, as far as an American Belgian waffle that we all know, is why are my waffles soggy when I leave them after they come out of the waffle iron, and I leave them for just a few minutes to go and prepare the rest and get them out on the table. But yet when you go to a restaurant, they're nice and crisp. And what is the secret to getting crisp American style Belgian waffles? So I thought I would share that tip with you today. And the tip is put in a tablespoon of cornstarch with your batter, and it will stay crispy. As soon as you take them out of the waffle iron, you can cover them with a towel till you get all of them ready to go and set to put out on your breakfast table. And voila, they're gonna stay crispy. So I wanted to share that secret. You can use that tip for when you're frying fish, making fish and chips, and it will make for extra crispy outer batter. So try that tip out, and I hope that helps you. But let's get back to the actual authentic Belgian street waffle that I've been talking about. So a lot of people who've spent any time in Europe know what I'm talking about. No one ever forgets, because it's a taste you'll never forget and always remember. But what I remember from our time in Brussels is that it was a dark, sort of dreary time of year that we were there. The sun was rarely out, so we were often bundled up outside, roaming the beautiful historic streets of the town, and we came across these street vendors who were selling these Belgian street waffles. And of course you have to try one, so you're taking off the gloves, and they hand it to you, and they warm your hand. They're almost hot to the touch, and they smell so good. I wish I could recreate that smell for you. Just think of caramelized sugary goodness. And as soon as you held it in your hand and felt that warmth and you took a bite, I mean, it just warmed you up from the inside out, and you're like, I'm sold. I want another one. So it's just something that I'll always remember, and I know so many of you who have traveled to Europe and have experienced this street vendor waffle know exactly what I'm talking about. So why not try to create this at home, right? So we're gonna start off today showing you how to make this. Like I said, it's going to be a different recipe, obviously, than our Americanized Belgian waffle. An Americanized Belgian waffle is more of a batter. This is going to be more of a dough bread technique that we're going to be using for this particular recipe. So to start off, let's get started. You're going to need some yeast, and we're going to be using a packet of yeast. Now, a packet of yeast is normally 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. So you can use a packet, or I keep mine in a jar. So we're going to put 2 1/4 teaspoons of active yeast into a bowl. And I'm using an electric mixer today. Again, you can do this by hand with a glass bowl or a regular bowl and a wooden spoon. It works just the same. So we put our yeast in. Then you're going to want to warm some milk. I am using whole milk. You're going to need 3/4 of a cup of just warmed milk, not too hot, because as you know from our other share classes, that hot milk will kill the yeast. So this is about 100 degrees. And you can just test that with a thermometer. I often just test it to the touch. And you'll know just by the touch whether it's too hot or not. And you can just let it sit out for a few minutes to warm up, so it's just barely tepid. So mix that together. And we're just waiting for that yeast to dissolve, and we'll notice the yeast activates, and so it'll look bubbly. And so we'll just set that off to the side for just a second. There's going to be a special ingredient that you'll have to special order for this particular recipe. You can find it online anywhere, so don't get scared off. I'll tell you about that as we go along here, but we're first going to make up the batter, and then we'll find out what that special ingredients is that makes these so super special. And you know, I think back to those times of wandering those cold winter streets of Europe, and just the stickiness and the yumminess of those waffles is just the best memory. And it's so fun. I recently shared, when we tested these, I shared it online and reached out to 2 of my friends who I've been lifelong friends with since then, and shared that we tried it, and they said, oh, let me try it too. So I sent them both the recipes to try it. And one of them got back to me, and she's like, oh, these were definitely met the taste factor really good, but maybe not quite the same of the overall experience of being in Europe. You can't beat that at all. That's nothing that we can recreate, but this is pretty darn close. So I hope that you give this a shot. So now that this is bubbly, what you're going to need next is some flour. We're going to be using 3 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour. So, 1, 2, there we go. There's our third, and then we want 1/2 cup. There we go. 3 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour. Now, it's funny, this morning as I was setting things out to get started on this particular share class, I realized I was out of brown sugar. And you know, years ago I would have panicked, like, oh no, I need to run out to the store. It's snowing today, as you guys can see. And I was like, oh, I can show them how to make their own do-it-yourself DIY brown sugar in just a couple of seconds. It's so easy, you guys, you won't even believe it. hopefully you guys can see here. You can use a regular mixer to mix this up, a hand mixer. I happen to have a small food processor, but here's how you make your own brown sugar. You're going to take a cup of regular white sugar, add this into the bowl. And then, secret ingredient for this brown sugar is you want to grab some molasses and just add a tablespoon of molasses to it, to the white sugar that's in here. And I just let it drizzle. You can put water on your tablespoon, or you can use some non-stick cooking spray if you like, and that just helps it get out of there a little easier instead of waiting for it all to slowly drip out of here. All right, so our tablespoon is in there. We're just gonna add the lid here. And so you'll see the magic here as we blend it up. We'll blend it for about 30 seconds or so, but you'll see the color change. So it went from white sugar to brown sugar in literally just a couple of seconds. And I'll show you guys right there. There's our brown sugar. Quite amazing. Set this off to the side and try to carefully pour some of this into the bowl. There you go. And there's our brown sugar. So if you're ever in a pinch and you don't have brown sugar, like I didn't have any on hand today, just make it up yourself. And the only trick to brown sugar is you want to store it in an airtight container so it doesn't harden up. We're gonna need 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and just make sure it's packed down. And what's nice, you know, if you ever come across a recipe that calls for dark brown sugar, just make it up yourself and add in extra molasses. That's all there is to it. Easiest thing in the world. And I even remember us talking about it at a share class before. I think Tina brought it up once. So Tina, if you're watching this, it was a fun tip that you gave us, and a fun tip that I've used over the years as well. And so just be sure and put that in an airtight container and you're good to go. All right, let's set this back to the side. There we go. And then, okay, so we have our 3½ cups of all-purpose flour in here, 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Next thing you're gonna need is a teaspoon of salt. And then you're going to need 2 large eggs. And I like to make sure that all my ingredients are at room temperature. You're not gonna wanna use cold eggs because we're using warm milk. You're not gonna wanna add cold butter. So you wanna make sure everything's at room temperature. So we're gonna need 2 eggs here. There's 1. And here's 2. And just be sure they're large eggs. I don't know if anyone buys small eggs anymore. I think the standard size is pretty much large eggs. But just, you know, do be on the lookout when you pick up your eggs that they are large. And then next thing you're gonna need is 2 teaspoons of vanilla. There's 1, and there's 2, and I'm at the end of my bottles, so that worked out beautifully. And the last thing that you're gonna need are 2 sticks of butter, and again, just make sure that butter is nice and soft. So leave it on the counter for at least an hour before you start this recipe. And that's especially important if you're whipping this by hand. In a mixer, if it's a little bit cold, you're okay because you can mix it just a little bit longer. So we'll add in this yummy butter. There we go. Okay. And then this is up to you. You can add in any other seasonings that you might like, whether it be nutmeg, or I like to use just a pinch of cinnamon. So probably I would say 1/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. There we go. Just a subtle touch just to give it that extra something special. And then all you're gonna do is combine this up until it's a soft dough. And so just be careful, start it on low speed so it doesn't fly out at you. Oops, there goes a little bit. There we go. There you go, you can turn it up just a little bit until you see that everything's combined in there. I always like to have a spatula nearby and just scrape it down off the sides here and just double check that that butter is all incorporated throughout, and it's going to be this soft dough. There we go. Perfect. And it will look just a little bit shaggy. And we'll just scrape down. See, that only took a few minutes there. And with this particular recipe, because I mentioned it's more like a bread dough, instead of a batter, we're gonna have to let this rest for a little bit to let that yeast activate, and we're gonna get a rise of this dough, I would say by half. So once you have this batter all scraped off the paddle here, you can give it one quick stir just to make sure everything on the bottom is nice and combined, and ours is. And I just I'd like to bring it all to the center. So it's like one big ball there in the center. Scrape that off. And then you'll want to grab a piece of plastic wrap. We'll just place that over the top, and we're going to set this dough off in a warm place and let it rise. You know, a lot of times people will tell you 30 minutes for a rise, but actually it's a full hour. I rarely, maybe if you're in a warm climate, you can get away with the 30 minutes. But I have found, especially here in Colorado, that's just not the reality, and especially with it snowing today, this is gonna take a full hour to let rise. So we'll be back in an hour. We'll pull out our waffle iron, and we're gonna show you the secret ingredient that makes this the yummiest waffle you've ever had. Okay guys, so we are back, and the dough has risen, and we are ready to prepare the final stage of these street waffles, or also known as gaufres. And so what we're gonna do is we're going to get our mixer out, and I'm gonna put that back in here and put in the paddle beater. Now again, you can mix, if you're mixing this by hand, just get a spoon. And then our secret ingredients is Belgian pearl sugar. Now, what this really is, let me open it and show you. All it is compressed sugar crystals. So if you guys remember, years ago they used to make, they might probably still make them, hopefully you can find them still at the store, but the cube sugars that you would put in your tea, this is very similar. It's just crystallized sugar. Just like this, and you can make this yourself actually with just sugar and water and let it dry, and it'll form these crystals. But you can order this, again, it's Belgian crystals, Belgian pearl sugar, And you can order this online just about anywhere, so Google that, but you do have to special order it if you don't want to try to make this yourself. And it's very easy to order. And so it comes in this 8-ounce bag, and all you're going to do is incorporate the sugar into the dough. And these chunks of pearl sugar are what is going to caramelize and form that crispy, crunchy, golden coating on these waffles. And this is what makes them so special. So we're gonna add this into our bowl here. And I just find mixing this with the mixer is so much easier to do. So mix that up until it's incorporated all throughout. There we go. And it just takes a second. You'll see all the chunks of sugar there. And grabbed a spatula, and we're just going to use that once again to get this dough off of the paddle here. And remember, it's a sticky dough, so just take a second here. And here's another tip I want to give you. I've set our waffle iron off to the side here. It's really super important that you let your waffle iron heat up for at least 10 minutes. Mine's probably going to start beeping here in just a minute to remind me it's going and ready to go. But heat that waffle iron up for at least 10 minutes. All right, scrape off all that batter there. All right, so you'll want to get out a cooling rack. We're going to put our waffles, oh, perfect timing. My waffle iron just literally went off here. So I'm going to scoot that over here. And we are ready to go with forming the dough. So you'll want to grab a cookie scoop if you have it, or just 2 large big spoons will work as well. And you are going to form, typically it's about 11 to 12 balls of dough. And I've just found that this is the easiest way to form the balls instead of using your hands. Just use a cookie scoop. And I've grabbed a piece of parchment paper, and we're just going to place these balls of dough onto the parchment paper. And this is just an easy way to make sure you have even sized street waffles. And it's just so fun. So fun to discover this, and this pearl sugar. It makes all the difference. And it was really funny. This morning I was all excited when I woke up because I knew I was making this today. And I was like, okay, I need to go dig through my closet and find this turtleneck that I'm wearing, this brown turtleneck, because I bought it all those years ago when we were in Europe, and I bought 2 of these turtlenecks, a cream one and this brown one. This brown one is the only one I have left. I got rid of the cream one years ago, but I just thought it was fun. I haven't kept a lot of clothes from way back when, and gosh, that would be almost 30 years ago now, but I still have this, and so I was super happy to wear it today, just for the memory, and had to, of course, put my collar up for the 80s, 90s styles back then. So clothes can, just like food, can give, remind you of those special times in your life. So let's see, right now I have 9, 10. Actually, I'm gonna get a little bit more than I thought out of this. So I'm probably looking at 13 or more. For some reason in my head I was thinking it made about 12, but I think I'm gonna get a little bit more than that. And this, just so you guys know, is a 2-inch cookie scoop. but I would say it's snowball size, a good handful size. But you're looking for about a 2-inch ball. There we go. And just try to scrape out as much as you can. I don't want to waste any of this at all. I want to make sure we have a bunch. I texted my son just a few minutes ago at school and said, hey, I'm making these today. Bring your friends over at lunchtime and come have them enjoy these with us. These are the best fresh off the waffle iron. We'll just add this extra here. And make sure you get all that sugar out of there. All right. So let me go wash my hands, and then I want you to grab some non-stick cooking spray, and we'll use that for the waffles. I have my non-stick cooking spray. I've let this waffle iron heat up for a minimum of 10 minutes, so it's super hot. I try to keep it on a fairly medium heat, not too hot because then it will burn the sugar, but you want it hot. And so you'll be able to just run your hands over the top and feel the heat off of it. And you want to spray it really well with this non-stick cooking spray. We don't want anything to stick. And then be sure to have a fork nearby. That way you're not going to touch it with your fingers. And there we go again, reminding me that it's all ready to go. Get your wire rack out and have that nearby as well. And then we're just going to take each ball of dough and we're going to place it into the center of the waffle iron. That's what's so interesting about making these yourselves, is you're not going to actually stick it where you would put a regular American waffle into the center of the waffle. And let me bring the camera around and just show you this so you have a better idea of where to place it on the iron. A traditional American waffle is going to be square and it has even edges. You're going to place this in the center, and the way that it presses it is it'll make it uneven edges, and that's a way you can tell whether it's an authentic Belgian street waffle versus an American style. So let me bring the camera over. I'll show you the overhead view of how I place it onto the waffle iron. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this overhead view. I'm gonna take that ball of dough and put it right in the center, not in the middle like you would normally do, put the batter there. Put it right in the center of the waffle iron. We're gonna close it up and we'll wait about 2 minutes typically. Your waffle iron may be different, but we're looking for a nice golden brown outer crust here. You can lift it up and see, and that's been about a minute of it in the waffle iron. Like I told you, my waffle iron takes about 2 to 3 minutes. At first, it can lean a little closer to the 3-minute mark. It all just depends on your heat setting of your waffle iron. Be sure not to put it too hot though, because you don't want that sugar to burn. We just want it to caramelize. And so my magic number for the time is 2 to 3 minutes. And the smell right now, oh, I can smell it. The cinnamon and that sugar caramelizing, and so it smells absolutely delicious. We ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 waffles, so that's terrific. And it's interesting when you read about these online, or if you talk to anyone about this, some people will actually serve this as a breakfast. I don't really see this as a breakfast food at all. It's not something we ate as a breakfast food when we were in Europe, and we ate it as a snack. And so I think this is just a fun snack, and I thought it was perfect for wintertime because of the warmth of it. And so I would highly recommend that you try it this winter. Oh, this looks terrific. I'll turn my waffle iron so you guys can see how nicely golden brown it is, and you can see the sugar melted. And again, it is sticky, and it's going to leave sugar in the bottom of your waffle iron. And that is great because as you cook these, that melted sugar is gonna form this syrup on here. And that's why you want that medium-high heat. And that's what makes it so delicious. So the first one I would say is not gonna have the remnants on it, but as you cook these, they get better and better. So right dead in the center of your waffle iron, close it up. You'll hear the crunch of that sugar compressing there. And we'll wait again 2 to 3 minutes for this. I'll just show you guys this one coming right off the griddle here. You can see on these that ooey gooey goodness of caramelized sugar that just drips off of there. That's so fun. And you can see on the waffle iron all that sugar that is melted down in between. That's the good stuff that coats the outside of these waffles and makes them so yummy. Oh, but it smells so good. So I won't make you guys wait for me to make up all 15 of these, but I do want to give this a shot. It's kind of fun. You can take parchment paper and cut it into squares and then wrap it around your waffle, and that makes you feel a little bit like you're in Europe. This one has rested for a minute, so it's cool to the touch, but these are best served fresh off the waffle iron. But they do taste great, even if they're cool, and just a fun snack. My kids ate them up, and my husband ate them all up within probably just a couple of hours after I made them at Christmas time. So delicious. You taste that crunchiness of the sugar that's been melted, and truly, you'll feel like this is something you've never tasted before in your life. And it will make you want to get on a plane and travel to Belgium just to have them. So I hope that happens to you someday, where you are over in Belgium and you see a street vendor selling these wonderful gaufres, and you go and try it and you remember the share class. And it's okay to keep opening your waffle iron, and you'll see the syrup bubbling up all around your waffle here. And that's that syrup I was telling you about that kind of drips and oozes from it. So this one definitely. So place that out onto your cooling rack. Again, it's super, super hot, so be careful. That trick I told you about, cutting your parchment paper into squares, you can use that, and to be able to hold it and eat it while it's hot, that's our favorite way to do it. So I'm just gonna keep going with these. One thing I did want to mention to y'all is that because you have that syrup in the bottom of the waffle iron, it's going to be really important to clean your waffle iron at the end. You can take a towel and run that across to wipe up that syrup. If you let it set, it will harden, and it'll be much harder when this is cooled. So just be super careful. Grab a towel, you can wet it just a bit, and run it through your waffle iron to clean it up. That's one trick that we've learned after making these a few times. And so hopefully that will help you and prevent you from having crusted caramelized sugar on your waffle iron. So make sure that you do that while that waffle iron is hot. I'll just show you this one and see those uneven edges around the side there. And this is your authentic Belgian street waffle. How fun is that? Thank you so much, you guys, for joining today. Hope you go share life, love, and food with all your friends and family.